What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I haven't posted a video in about a week, about 7 days. Feels really weird. I'm not burnt out. I'm not depressed. I'm none of that. I just kind of took a step back from the channel to look at what I was doing and really focus on all the things that I want to improve, such as looking at the lens when I talk to the camera. Not talking like this, trying to get everything across in one sentence because I'm afraid of what I'm saying and I'm really self-conscious. Like, you might notice I'm actually in focus in this shot. I've been working a lot on trying to up my game. I really see this channel, being at 100,000 and then 1 million subs and then expanding the grind reel to do a bunch of different things like podcasts and game dev and TLDR. I've been working on improving and reading a bunch of stuff to get better. In today's video, we're talking about data science. And I don't really know that much about data science really, so we're going to use my friend Eric. Eric is a student at Lambda School. He's doing part-time data science. He's not doing full-time, or just finished his first week of data science. So he's going to walk us through a data science example of how to grab data from a CSV, comma separated values, typical Excel sheet, and how to put that on a chart using Python. And you can follow along. It's about 8 minutes long, and then after that we're doing a Q&A. So you don't actually need to know code or Python or any of that stuff, and I'll put a link to Colab, which is kind of like an online hosted IDE, like a Visual Studio. You can delete the code and follow along, or you can just leave it and click play, and you'll see the end result that we get to in the video. So if you want, you can skip the example and go straight to the Q&A, or if you want to learn a little bit about data science and how to do it, something applicable, something you could take away from these videos, then stay for that. One thing here gets kind of, he didn't have headphones when we did this, so every time I spoke into the microphone, you could hear me echo. Right, you work for yourself, but you're still doing the 40-hour consulting. You probably couldn't understand anything. Because of that, I'm going to cut my questions, and I'm just going to put a little piece of text that says the question I asked him, and then you can, going forward, you better have headphones, Eric. Thank you. Just kidding, I love you. If you don't know what Lambda School is, it's a code school that's 9 months long, 12 months, about a year if you're part-time, but you don't pay anything until you get a job making $50,000 or more. And then after that, you pay 17% of your income back for 2 years, or up to $30,000. So whichever one happens first. So if you finish and you don't get a job right away, and you go start selling cars and you make $60,000 that year, you don't pay Lambda back because you didn't get a job using the skills that they taught you. That's how that works. They have mobile dev, they have web dev, they have UX, and they have data science right now. So if you're interested, I have a link in the description. I'd appreciate it if you use that link. It supports the channel. You get $250 when you graduate. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy this little kind of different style video, and more content coming soon, more consistent content coming soon, better quality content coming soon. Hope you guys have a great Sunday, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
What we're using is what's called Colab. It's hosted by Google. So it's free, and this is what, at least in the beginning, most of our assignments will be. So the first week we really learned about, essentially pulling data from various sources and making very, very basic visualizations with that data. One thing they showed us is this particular repository of a bunch of different data sources, and you can select things from here, and it gives you essentially how many rows and then how many columns. And I'm just going to right click and just copy this link for future use. The first thing we're really going to do is import a couple of important libraries that we're going to be using. Pandas is one of them, and Pandas is really going to allow us to kind of do things with the data itself. And another one that we're going to use is called matplotlib. I would like to say that stands for like matplot library, something to that effect. These are two of like the three that we are pretty much always going to use in data science. You notice that as I'm putting import pandas as PD or this as PLT, those are just aliases, because if we did not use those, then each time we're going to have to type this entire word. Play button over here, or you can do Shift Enter, and it pretty much performs the same function. So now what we're going to do is basically find and import some data. So as I mentioned, we found this data on this page, the scorecard data, copied the link, and in order to bring it in, what we want to do is use our first Panda PD function. One of the functions that you can do with this, if you type pd.read, you can see, and then hit the tab button, you can see essentially everything that you're able to read. These are all different types of files that you're able to read. So what we're going to be working with is Panda and reading a CSV file. Open it up, parentheses, and then you just pasted essentially our data that we pulled from the college score date. If we want to actually visualize very quickly what is in this data, we do what's called a curl function, and then we run it. And what this is going to do is very quickly show us what the data looks like. right? Because we just want to know what type of data we're looking at. Is it an Excel? Is it a CSV? And from this, we see that, all of these different things are separated by commas. That means that this particular file or data is what you would call a CSV, or, for those who don't know, comma, separated value. And anytime you ever see somebody or me do a hashtag, that just makes it a note so that it's not actually read as code, but just information. I'm going to put a hashtag there because that's not something that we're really going to use, but we just wanted to visualize the data. What I would like to do is, kind of name it something. Let's call it student data URL. And this is just going to make it easier for us moving forward. And then as we have pulled in this file, we'll just name this just student data. So now what this is telling us is, our student data URL, where we got the data from. We want to use the pandas library in order to read this CSV from this URL, which is what we mapped this to. Now, if we want to actually see what that data looks like right now, we type in student data. We do .head. And again, this is another panda function. And by doing this and running it, it looks more like a table or data that we're actually able to use. Now, it's important to note that whenever you use head, it really just gives you the first 5. But if you want to visualize any of this data, we see some numbers in here, which is good. But we also see this NaN, which pretty much means like not a number. So that's showing that there's no information that exists in that particular cell. In order to see which of these columns has data or does not have data, what we can do is run like an is null function. And we can also sum. And by doing this, it shows the columns that we previously saw. All of the columns that we previously saw. And it takes a sum of how many values in that particular column are not a number. You can't have values that do not exist. Otherwise, it's really going to throw off your data or not allow you to do a data visualization at all. A couple of things that I could do here if I wanted to show how to make a visualization, down here. If we look at PCT-PEL, it's a column PCT-PEL. There's 748, NaN values, and then PCT-flown have also 748 values that don't have anything in them, or cells that don't have anything in them. So being that those two numbers are the same, that means that I can get rid of those and have a workable data set. So we're going to do our student data, period. And what we're going to do here, drop all of the cells that do not have value. And this is done by choosing the name of the column. So up here where we had is null, down here we're going to drop all NA. And that's dropping all the NA values for the PCT-PEL column. For our Y, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it for the other column that I mentioned, which I think was PCT-F-loan. But I can show you guys what these things mean. So all of this, you see PCT-PEL here. This is like the index information for that data set. And then the other one, PCT-F-loan, would stand for like the percentage of students that are on federal loan. We want to then move into actually plotting this data. This is where this matplotlib comes in. Pandas was really for the data frame, for the data itself, and then plotting it. We're going to be using the matplotlib library, the plot scatter. This is just a scatter plot. And in doing a scatter plot, it generally asks for, an X and a Y value. As you see up here, we already have our X value, which is the percentage of students on Pell, and the Y being the student, or the percentage of students with federal loan. And you just run that, and it gives you a basic plot. But that's essentially how you import data, pull data, and then quickly visualize it. Now, this really wouldn't mean anything to anyone because it doesn't have any, titles. So a good graph or figure should have titles. So you add your title. You could also name your x-axis. We should see now those headers. I hope it's pretty clear. It's on a dark background. Something else that we can do, that's a scatter plot, but another one that we also learned was histogram. And by using histogram, then we'll do a histogram with X first. And again, X is the percent of students with Pell. Runs a basic, histogram here. So we want to make sure that we separate these plots. And you can do something called plot show. And each time you run a particular plot and do plot show, it will run that as a separate plot. And again, we can do the same thing down here that we did up here in order to label. But I also wanted to show kind of a different library. So we use 2 so far. We use pandas and we use matplotlib. There's another library. Actually, our professor gave us a list of all these different types of libraries that you're able to pull from, and they represent data differently. So depending on your need. So the last one that I'll show is called Seaborn. So we'll import Seaborn as the alias SNS, what we call a distribution plot. There we go. Then we have a distribution plot for X. And we can also do the same thing for Being again that I did not separate these as two separate plots, we have both of those distributions on the same graph. So I have a bachelor's in biology and a master's in pharmaceutical chemistry, and was just close away from finishing a doctorate in health administration. The goal was definitely to go to medical school, which is why my background was in the hard sciences with biology and pharmaceutical chemistry. But during that time, didn't get into medical school, but also found a passion more so for the health administration side. And so that's when I then started to pursue the doctorate in health administration. I was a CFO of a federally qualified health center, which is, it's an acronym that, a lot of people obviously don't know, but essentially it was, a nonprofit organization that provided healthcare to the underserved. So people who had insurance or did not have insurance, but have access to it. And so I was over the operations and the finance. I decided last year to, kind of move on and really decide to do my own thing. Currently working for myself, doing healthcare consulting, because I realized that I definitely love problem solving, more than anything. And, there's so many different applications in healthcare for sure. And like I'm seeing them with each little bit that I learned, Yeah, so I used Excel, and I also used Microsoft Power BI. So Excel obviously, is Power BI used some Excel spreadsheets, and there's also, the opportunity, I guess, hopefully once I get to that point, to use some R script or to use Python in order to really do some more data visualization. I was using just what was stock, like what was available, and again, just importing basic Excel spreadsheets into Power BI. So the 6 to 9, Monday through Thursday, that is set in stone, and it is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time, or Lambda School time as they call it, which would be 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. my time. You have an option for the 5th day to be either Friday, same time, Saturday, I think it was 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and then Sunday you had the 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So I decided, just to do everything during the week, Monday through Friday, just really grind it out and take the weekend to go over what it is that I learned that week, or I don't know, no, but decided to just get everything done in that week. Definitely, what was the first week like? Having no coding background whatsoever. You have the pre-course work, but they somewhat guide you through it, and you take that and you use it sort of as a springboard or platform to do some more research, figure out the answers. So the first day, I think I was a bit surprised because it was an orientation. So, again, being that it was 9 p.m. my time, like I was probably over caffeinated, preparing for 3 hours. And, we did get out a little bit early. I think it was maybe 10:30, 10:45 that we were done. But, Tuesday, we definitely got into the lecture, and it moved very quickly, very quickly. I know that the way the part-time is set up, essentially 2 weeks would equal 1 week of the full-time program. So we have a lecture one day. The following day, we kind of have like project time to meet with our PMs. I imagine that all of that would be done in 1 day for the full-time. So I'll just say it moved very quickly. And the good thing is that they do have the lectures recorded, and we do have a Slack channel, multiple Slack channels that we, have the opportunity to post questions, and people are very responsive. And it's good to hear when other people have questions that you have. And I don't know if you're shy or afraid to ask or whatever the case is, but a lot of us just don't have any background in it. So it's good to start somewhere. And once I got past the initial shock of how quickly it was going to move, it was fine. It was fine. After a while, then you do have to do practice outside of, those hours. So don't think, from 6 to 9 or 9 to 12, my time, like that's it. Like you're going to have to, do the assignments. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to, read documentation. You're going to have to do all of those things if you really truly want to be successful at it.